Welcome to Powered by Authenticity. Thank you for tuning in this evening, and welcome to another episode of our Western New York Changemaker series. This series is all about celebrating the remarkable people across Western New York who are creating change, lifting others, and leading with heart. And I cannot wait to share this story and this conversation with you. Jessica Cox, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Emily. Thank you for having me here. It's really exciting to be here.
How's it going tonight?
It's going great. It's a beautiful day and see the sun shining. So I think we have a lot to be grateful for.
I know, and it's not quite as hot as the past few days have been. Oh my gosh.
That is true. Very true.
Now, do you enjoy the heat or do you prefer the cold we usually get?
Definitely a little milder than as warm as it's been.
Yeah.
Definitely a little bit. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. It's been so hot, but I mean, we'll get a handful of those days, so we'll be all right. Well, I would love, if you don't mind, to share a little bit about yourself with our listeners.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. I am the president for Highmark, New York, the largest Blue Cross Blue Shield plan here in Western New York, largest health plan. And I come from about 25 years of experience in the health world. And I'm a upstate New Yorker by my background. So I grew up in the center of the state, the Finger Lakes region, and I moved to Buffalo in August of last year when I did take on the role. And so just excited to be here, be a part of the community, love the job and the role and the people. So yeah, that's just a little bit about myself and kind of how I got here and about me.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so great that you were able to move to Buffalo. Have you liked it so far?
We love it. We
Oh,
love it. There's always something to do. I said like this is more festivals than I've ever seen in my life, and I can barely keep my calendar up to date. I feel like I'm constantly putting something in my phone. I never had heard of Porch Fest before. That was very interesting to me.
did you get to go?
We drove through Wood Village
Okay.
to see Porch Fest, and the parking was like 4 miles away.
Yeah.
And so therefore we drove through with our windows down. But just absolutely amazing. I just love it.
Yeah, I saw that on the news and I'm like, I've got to mark this down for next year.
Yes, me
Oh,
too.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, we like to do a little icebreaker on the podcast, and we like to focus it around food. Typically, we're big eaters here. Do you have a favorite restaurant in the Buffalo area?
Yeah, we have a few. I'm tend to be pretty laid back, so I will say we have learned to love Hamburg Brewing Company out in Hamburg. So a little partial to there, but it's also close to our home, as many of us here in Buffalo know. You know, whether you're in the north or the south, I think once you go home from work, you don't venture far from home,
I
right?
agree.
So I found that is very true. And then, several of the downtown establishments. I mean, Frankie Primo's, Pattina's, Chop House. I mean, that food scene is amazing here.
I know. Isn't it great?
Yeah, yes, it's amazing.
How about a favorite wing place?
Definitely barbell.
Yeah.
Gotta go barbell. Yep.
Yeah. It's just
So
so good.
it's so good. It's so good, right? Although I will say I'm just like a mild or medium girl. Like there's all the crazy sauces,
Yeah.
and yeah, I just like the traditional.
I'm with you. I like a good traditional wing.
Yeah, yeah, with a lot of blue cheese.
Oh, yeah, especially their blue cheese. There's something about it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, producer Ken, how's it going tonight?
It's going good.
All right, Buffalo, favorite restaurant that you have there?
Ooh, she mentioned the Chop House, which is always good. But one of my go-tos is always the Griffin.
Oh yeah.
They've got like a wild game burger that they change up pretty much every week. They got a couple different locations too, so doesn't matter which one you go to, they're all good.
Awesome.
Oh, good to know. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah, they are good. I'm with Chop House too. I love Chop House.
Their salmon is just out of the world. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. It's just, we're going to show at Shay's tomorrow. I think we might have to head up Chop House now. Awesome. Well, thank you for indulging us. We love to hear about all of the different places that people visit locally as well. It's kind of fun to hear about. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So would you mind sharing a little bit about your position with Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So in August of last year, I was able to come into the role as what they consider the president of Highmark, New York. So Highmark is a Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan headquartered out of Pittsburgh. And we have 4 markets, what we call markets or states, where we are the health insurance carrier. So Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, and then New York. And so I came in as the president and CEO of the Highmark New York entity, overseeing the total, profit and loss, P&L, legal entity accountability, while reporting to somebody in Pittsburgh who oversees through the broader enterprise. So, I oversee our large group sales team, our Medicare markets, all of our business to business markets, interact with our provider partners, our community engagement, community affairs, and investment staff. So we have about 1,400 to 1,500 employees here in Western New York. And so, just have a variety of different functions, operations, claim processors, customer service, as you can imagine, physicians who oversee looking at clinical information. So really just oversee the operations of the entirety for New York, along with my colleagues out of Pittsburgh and other areas of the company.
That's amazing. And so first of all, that many employees in the Buffalo area, that's amazing to know that that large of an employer.
Yeah, it's great. So we have over a 90-year history here in Buffalo as a Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan. So a very long legacy, really proud of that. We're the only health plan that has a union organization. So we actually have OPIU local within our employee base. So about 500 employees that are also our unionized workforce. So excited that we're able to support that and support that culture of the region.
Yeah.
Very important to us as well as our employees, and engaging that throughout the community. So a lot of history and a lot of things to be proud of. And I feel like that just symbolizes Buffalo, right? Like
Yes.
the sense of pride, the sense of community, the sense of just loving who we are, where we are, and wanting this community to really thrive. So it's really fun.
I love that. And you painted the picture of the Buffalo community so well, and I follow you on LinkedIn, and I see all the amazing things that you personally are out there and involved in. And I think from a leadership perspective, thank you for doing that. That is just what an amazing way to kind of set the stage for how you lead the organization. So thank you for doing that and being a prime example of leadership here in Buffalo.
Well, I say thank you. I mean, I think this community makes that easy because they open up their doors and they provide the opportunities.
Yes.
So I think it's how do we as people of the community just take advantage of what's right there in front of us. So it's lucky on my part that there's so many opportunities and amazing organizations, and I have an amazing team too. I've got to do a call out to my team at Highmark. I say to them often, about 2 weekends ago, we actually staffed and supported 17 events in 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Just so, it takes a village, I say it takes a country sometimes, right, to be able to do that type of work. And so it's really true to who we are, and it's so special to all of us. That I oftentimes have to say, slow down, we can't be that many places. And our team is like, yes, we can do it. Because they're so passionate about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Wow. 17 events over a weekend. Holy cow. That is quite the outreach into the community.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that you mentioned is just being out into the community. So I know for myself, like networking has been very valuable. And, I belong to a couple organizations in Buffalo that just, being able to go out and, share values and perspectives on different things. Are there networking or, what's your perspective on networking and how that's been valuable to yourself?
Yeah, I think networking for me in relationships through my entire career is what I think is most critical. Even in my own children, I tried to develop that we have to be able to interact with other humans, right? Like
Yeah.
that is the epitome of who we are as people, and like trying to make sure to encourage our teams, like I said, my own family and my children to say like that's so important for your own personal growth,
Yeah.
as well as potentially helping to develop others, right? Learn, empathize, understand just different points of view. It's the best way that you can really go about things, I feel. And that doesn't matter if you're trying to progress in your career, if you're just trying to grow as a human, or just be a part of something. So I definitely have taken advantage. There's a lot of networking opportunities in Buffalo, without a doubt.
Yep.
And it can be, I'm part of women's groups. So, it may be certain nonprofit and certain, missions that, people are aligned with. And we found some of those where we interact, faith-based, right? Like there's so many, the list goes on and on.
Yep.
And so I do say sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. And when
Mhm.
I'm working with others or maybe mentoring somebody, I try to say like pick 2 or 3, because
Yeah.
it can get really overwhelming, right? And it's
Yep.
kind of that old adage of, maybe pick a few and do it well, quality over quantity. So, I try to do that myself, because when I give, I want to really be able to give and participate wholly.
Yep.
But it's hard. There's a lot to choose from here.
There is, and I don't know about yourself, but I have this desire to just go out and help, and so somebody tells me something, I'm like, oh, I really want to help you, but
I do. I always say I'm the person that I cannot, sorry, SPCA, but I do say I cannot come to the SPCA because I want to take home every single animal.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to stay away so I don't go home with dozens of animals. So I agree, right?
Yep.
It's every story is amazing, and every person has a story, and there's just so many people who need others, right, to help in
Yep.
some way. And so it's nice though to be in a community that feels so passionately again about that, and about philanthropy, and about providing groups that will talk about it and do something, take action.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that taking action part is something that I think everyone has a lot of great ideas, but being able to bring people together and take that action is just a really impressive thing for people to be able to do.
Yeah, it is. It is. And seeing all the activity, you mentioned social media and seeing the posts and the activities, right? I mean,
Yep.
of course, we have 716 Day coming up. So a
Oh
little shout
yeah.
out for that. That's only in a few weeks, a big community giving day in the community. But, so much every single day and weekend, for people to get out there and get involved. I know our team, we participate in the Naval Park, like rehabbing and doing work there. We are working with Habitat for Humanity, hopefully launching a few houses later this year. So,
Awesome.
a very long list of many organizations. But our partners and all of our other, businesses and community partners, I mean, they're right out there with us. And I think that's really exciting, is when you see that big group of people that believe so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, thank you for being the type of leader who recognizes the importance of that for an organization too, because I think that's also a piece that sometimes gets missed, is that, even if it takes an hour away from somebody's day, there's others who may not want that for their team, but it sounds like Highmark is very supportive of that, and that's great to hear.
Yeah, we do. We give, actually pay 8 hours to every employee for volunteer time specifically.
Amazing.
And our volunteer hours are up 200% over last year at this time.
Oh, wow.
yeah, by this time. So we try to definitely have a very engaged team, and they are very engaged, and so it's fun to watch.
Yeah, that's great. Well, the other thing I'm curious about, it sounds like maybe you have some experience with coaching and mentoring. Has that been pivotal for your personal growth professionally, personally? What are some of those thoughts that you have about coaching and mentoring others?
I think they're absolutely critical. And I always say, people call it a coach or a mentor, and it doesn't matter the word you put to it, right?
Yeah.
It might be a grandmother, it might be a mother, it might be a sister, it might be a technical coach or mentor in your career. But most of us had somebody that did things along our way to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that was advice, maybe open a door for us, maybe say, hey, an organization has this position open, you'd be great, right? Like give
Yep.
them a call. So whatever wording we all use, I think most of us have had some form of that. And I think, how do we pay that forward? As
Yeah.
we've learned life lessons, how do we help, others, like maybe tap into us and ask ideas and ask advice. I do a lot of mentoring and coaching, especially of young early leaders,
Mm-hmm.
not always young, but just new leaders, I
Yeah.
should say. And, what I find a lot of times is people are just like, almost just timid or scared, and will say, I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally have said to them, I didn't either. Right? I got to the top of this building and I was like, how do I do this? Right? What does this mean? And I think, it's instilling the confidence that you are in the position because you do know what to do. You just don't realize, and you have resources and people around you to ask questions. So mentoring coaching for me has been so vital. I had one mentor in my career who was a CFO at a company I worked at, and it was a woman. And people were a little timid of her. She was scary. This was many years ago, and she was known to be tough, very, very tough. And I remember she approached me after a meeting and it's like, I want to be your mentor. And I was in the car afterward and I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do?
Right.
I can't do this. Like, she ended up being the best mentor I had, just very real, so much advice as a first time leader, how to interact, how to have confidence, things that were important to me. And, a testament to the naming of your podcast, but also how to be authentic to myself.
Yep.
Right. And to lead in a way that I was leading as myself and not trying to emulate others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I found the most success, was really learning that.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard when you walk into a room and there's people who are, maybe behaving in a way that's uncomfortable for who you are, thinking it's okay if I'm myself. Like, it's okay.
Yes, it is. I was in the industry at a young age and would walk into our boardroom with, people in suits and cufflinks, and it can be very intimidating, right? And they have a very strong sense of how they speak, and they are very sure of themselves, and right, like command a room, and it can be very scary. And so I think, finally coming into your own skin a bit to be like, I can have a voice at this table in a way that I'm myself, I think is really important for everyone.
Yep, that's great. I think the other part of coaching and mentoring is, they seem like really big words, but even just taking 15 minutes with somebody, that's a coaching session. Like, you're helping somebody through a problem.
I 100% agree, and so many people will come up with, like, here's a framework, and have your mentee come with an agenda, and they have to have a goal. And I had always had a little different perspective where I would say to somebody, this is really here to meet your needs.
Yep.
This isn't here to meet my needs. And so what's the best way for you? And is it a 15-minute coffee discussion, or is it you want me to just be on speed dial when you need a friend, right? Yep. Like, that's the best for me type of coach and mentoring approach, is because you can't take a one size fits all and just apply it to every person. You have to really dive into what works best, because that's how you'll help somebody succeed the most, is by working within their style and what they're comfortable with. So I agree. It can be 15 minutes. It can be an hour, it can be, over a cup of coffee, it can be over a glass of wine, right? Like everybody has some place where it's how do you become comfortable? How do you create a safe space? I always used to say, and I still say, right, that you can have transparency and build trust. So your coach or mentor is really truly there to help you grow.
Yeah. I love that. And I love, the no one person is the same type of coaching. I see a lot of people out there selling these coaching programs, and I'm like, is that really going to provide the value that the other person needs? Everybody's so different in the way that they lead, in the way that they act, behave, how they learn, that a lot of these templates or, programs, I feel, are just trying to cookie cutter the person into what their program wants them to be like.
Yeah, I agree. And I think sometimes we forget to ask the person, what are they trying to achieve? I've done a lot of coaching and mentoring of somebody that we always assume they're trying to achieve the next level in their career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case. There's some people that they are very happy with the job or role they have. They just maybe want to develop a new skill or develop as a person or just have a little more confidence or whatever that may be.
Yep.
But there's always this assumption that because somebody's seeking a coach or a mentor, that means, I want advancement.
Yep.
And, how do we stop that too is a question I always ask, because, we need to help people in a way that they need, they want to and what they want to achieve.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I think you're right. One of the first questions, like, to ask the person is, what do you want out of this? It's like at the end of this discussion or, whatever it may be, what is it that you hope to have out of the conversation so that you can make sure it's beneficial for everybody involved? Yeah. Awesome. So the other question I have for you, I've worked in healthcare for a long time, and I know it can be a challenging environment. What's your perspective or thoughts, advice for females who are in the career sector? They want to grow. Maybe they're younger coming in, or maybe they've decided they want to just take that next level. They've been at where they are for a while. What are some kind of words of wisdom that you feel would help benefit those in their career journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think first you said it. I think it's recognizing and saying it's okay to say it's hard, right? It's an industry that is emotional, right? People are using the healthcare system typically either for something very happy, maybe it's a birth and it went well, or something very positive. But more times than not, they're really having to use the system because it's a situation that's a terrible experience, right? It's something people are scared, they don't want to go through it. So I think first and foremost, it's, I think as females, we can tap into some of the skills we do tend to have, not always, but, of empathy, of understanding, some of those skills in an industry that's hard, it's emotional. I say from our perspective, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is. And so that doubles down then on the emotional, because when you're paying such a large amount of money for something and then at the same time dealing with a catastrophic situation, it's very personal to that person. And so I think remembering that first is important and why we're here. Yep. And then I think secondly, it's a complex system. I mean, it's very complex. And so ask questions. Right? Ask questions, learn, just be a sponge, because I'm still learning, because this system is so complex. And so I always say, lead with inquisition, lead with, and I always apologize to my own team. I'm like, I question by nature, and it's not to question what they do. It's because I want to understand.
Yeah.
Because if I can understand, I can help.
Yep.
And so I think that's a skill sometimes we can bring to the table, is just what's that mindset of that it's okay to ask. It's not a challenge, right? It's how to commit the spirit of how do we make it better, thinking innovatively, thinking creatively. So those are some of the things I like to work on, especially with females, because typically more than not, those are some of the skill sets they bring to the table that you don't always see.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. The other thing I've really started to recognize is that I should have started to ask for help sooner in my career than I probably did.
That is very true.
It's not a weakness. Yes. It's actually a strength to say, can you help?
Yes, it certainly is. And it's that idea of no man's alone, right? Or
Yep.
woman's alone, or men and women, right? It takes all of us, and no one person in a room should have all the answers,
Right.
right? Because
Yep.
that totally defeats the reason to need a team. So hopefully nobody in the room has all the answers. Hopefully it takes a combination of people that can look at something and think about how to approach it and the best way to address or create a new system or something better. I think that's what makes us unique. And so I agree. I think we definitely need to recognize that and think about having help. I do think as women, we take a lot on our shoulders sometimes between our home and our children and even aging parents. And even myself to this day, that guilt sometimes of like, I should be home by a certain time, or I should be more present, or, whatever the case may be, it definitely weighs on us.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's hard to get out of that mindset once you start to swirl down there.
It is. It definitely is. I know finding that downtime and that reflection time is key. Mine is driving, but I get to do that quite a bit. So that's easy. But it definitely is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And just question for you from a growth perspective. I think one other way that we can kind of challenge ourselves is to take on a reach assignment. So, if you are looking at that next level, or, what it may be, taking a risk for yourself within for a role or a project or what it may be. Have you ever had to take a reach assignment, or have you been fortunate
quite
enough
a few times? I often think of the statistic with women especially, that we will tend to look at a job that we're applying for, and we don't meet 90% of the qualifications or description, then we won't apply. Yep. And a man on typically, they'll only meet 20% of the requirements, and they're like, I've got this, right? Like, I'm applying, I've nailed it. And so I think we hold ourselves back because of that. I took quite a few risks where I trusted either leadership or a colleague who would say, there's a position. I was in a role at one point, even overseeing a large team of people, had been in that division for many years, about 10 years at the time. So subject matter expert, comfortable in my own skin, knew it, right? Knew it in and out, large team. And I was approached by a senior member of management who wanted me to take on a different role. And it was a role that was a temporary role. It was a project. And they said, look, it's a 3-year gig. If we only have temporary funding, trust me, we'll find you a job coming out of it. No one reports to you. You're just an individual contributor, and you have to influence all these areas across the company to implement this huge regulation. And I was like, yeah, sure. When do we start? Right. And so I think you have to have a little bit of that faith too. And so it takes that comfort zone of knowing you're in the right place at the right time. But I had to have faith. And 2 or 3 times in my career, I took on roles like that, where one of them, I was reading a book all night long because I was like, I don't understand this very technical team I was overseeing. And my own husband finally was like, you're never going to understand that. People went to school for 4 years, learning the technical side of this. Trust your team. And I was like, yeah, right? You're right.
Yep.
So, I do think don't hold back, right? Trust your gut. You can sometimes use skills you have other than the technical knowledge, especially if you have that team around you.
Yep. I love that you said use your gut. I was going to ask you if you when you were making those decisions, did you go to that gut instinct?
Yeah, I definitely I always kind of, for myself at least, had that feeling of I know when it was the right move or not the right move. Deep inside, I knew the answer.
Yep.
And even when I was taking this role on, or deciding whether to take this role, it was a large, decision for myself and my family. And I remember our youngest son looked across the table at me at dinner and said, "Why wouldn't you do this?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. He's like, well, you tell me to go for it. Why wouldn't you go for it? And then it was like, okay, right back at you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the night that it was like, yeah, we've got to go for it.
Oh, that's so. And I can imagine. I mean, you had to move. I'm sure there was a move involved and everything else. So it's a tough decision.
Yeah. And I think we all have a lot of tough decisions at times, and
Yep.
you just like, what's the right decision for you at the right time, and what's your circumstance? For us, we were at a point where it was the right decision. Our kids were grown and gone. Even our youngest was leaving home at that point, and we had the right things in place to be able to move. And that's not always the case. It wasn't the case for me for many years of my career. I wasn't able to move due to some circumstances and a decision I made to stay where I was. So, but yeah, sometimes you just know your gut. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think it takes a little bit of that growth in yourself and the faith of yourself to be able to say, even if it's not the right decision right now, probably there was a reason for it, and I'm gonna see that at some point.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree. I
yeah.
agree.
So some of those moments are the most teachable.
Yes, they definitely are. But they let us grow, right?
They
And we learn a
do.
lot of good lessons. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly do. Well, what's next? Anything fun on the horizon for yourself or Highmark?
I think this summer we're gonna sit and enjoy Buffalo, like I
Yeah,
said, and I think it's the time of year to enjoy, right?
yeah.
Lots of water and, like I said, festivals and beautiful weather, and so we're really focused on that. We're just really focusing with the team here at Highmark. We've got a lot of momentum right now, and just it's great to see when the team's really all rowing together, and the smiles. We're now down in Seneca 1, so we moved last year, about a year
Oh, right.
ago.
Yeah.
And so we've, been here about a year, and beautiful space. And so right across from, everything down by the water. And so I think right now doing that, planning a trip to Greece next year. So my
Oh,
youngest son I
wow.
spoke of is enlisted in the Navy. So he's active Navy.
Okay.
And he's stationed in Suda Bay over in Greece on the island of Crete. So excited to do that trip and be able to go see. I keep saying to him, yes, we're coming to see you, but yes, I'm coming to see Greece. But so that they have that to look forward to. I have two older boys. They both live in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So we get to see them quite a bit because
Yeah.
I get to go to Pittsburgh for work. So we laugh. We definitely we buy a lot of dinners while we're there and pay for their Uber rides and their parking. But it's lovely. It's wonderful to get to see them a lot. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's great that that worked out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were aware of who Highmark was before I came to Highmark,
Yeah.
and the boys used to pick on me. They have a very large building in downtown Pittsburgh, and they light it up at night, and they would be like, "Hey, look at their building." So it was kind of irony that I just happened to end up there.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Now, do you like being at Seneca One? I forgot you guys moved there. I was there. I think it was in April. There was a Western New York Women in Tech event at
There
Seneca.
was
Yeah,
that was a huge event
it was
here.
amazing.
Amazing. I headed out and was in Albany those couple days that was here, but I went through the lobby when they were setting up, and there were balloons and signs and unbelievable.
Yep.
There's always something in the lobby here. They do
Yeah.
a fantastic job with how much goes on, and lots of activities, lots of amenities. I mean, we have the food hall, we have Teller's Bar in the lobby, we have anyone who wants to ever come on a Wednesday. There's always puppies that are up for adoption. Just saying that out loud. Come on down, take home a rescue. But there's always activity and the hustle and bustle of the building.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I've been there a couple of times I sit on the board of directors for the WIT Network Buffalo chapter.
Okay.
And
Okay.
a lot of events happen at Seneca One. So it's kind of cool because you can park and walk everywhere in Buffalo.
You can. You can.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's so great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast tonight. I could talk to you all day.
Well, thank you. I could talk to you. You make it easy.
I just appreciate and
I apologize for the sun. See how bright that
oh,
sun is today?
I know it's so bright.
So bright.
But, thank you. And being a woman in healthcare myself and IT, I know it's a challenging environment. And just knowing what is happening with Highmark and the growth and the community interaction, it's obvious that they put the right woman in charge.
Oh, well, thank you, Emily.
Well, thank you again for being on the show tonight.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed our conversation so much. And a big thanks to producer Ken. Thanks for being here tonight.
You got it.
And as always, we also like to say thank you to Go Art here in Batavia, New York. It's a community art center. If you ever get a chance, Jessica, Batavia is a pretty cool little community center here, including a podcast studio that through the gift of a grant, they allow us to come in and use. So it's pretty cool space too.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate the conversation. It was lovely to get to spend some time with you. So thanks for sharing your journey with us.
Well, thank you. And come see us when you're Seneca One next time. Please.
All right, I sure will.
Yeah.
All right. And thanks to all my listeners for being here. If you're new to the show, thanks and welcome. If you've been here with us for a while, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Jessica, and have a great evening.
You too.
Recording